So good afternoon and welcome to everybody who's participating and observing the Town of High River and Foothills County Intermunicipal Committee meeting here on Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at 2:30 p.m. We have a lively agenda today and we look forward to conversations with our councils and administration. So we'll call the meeting to order here at 2:33 p.m. And I'll look to our participants, members for additions or changes to the agenda. And if not, I'll look for a motion. We can use the blue hand or you can just chime in on this, however you wish.
I'll give you a motion, Revo.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Appreciate that. All in favor? I'll go by exception on this. So if anybody's opposed, we'll just do this by exception. Just let me know if there's any opposition. I'm not seeing any, so that motion carries, and we're moving on to reviewing the previous meeting notes as have been copied here in our agenda and have hopefully had a chance to review those. So I look forward to any comments on those minutes at this time. I'm not seeing any, so would someone like to provide a motion on those minutes?
I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes. Rob?
Thank you. Deputy Seward gives us that motion to approve the minutes. Any further conversation? Not seeing any. So by exception, is anyone opposed to receiving that for information? For approval, I should say. Not seeing any, so that carries. And we are now on to the business items on our agenda. The first matter is item 4A, which is entitled Intermunicipal Committee Terms of Reference. And we have the administration person, we have Breland Joyce on this matter, and I will look forward to your presentation to us to give us a background. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Revo, and good afternoon, committee members. The background for this agenda item is at the December 3rd, 2020 IMC meeting, the county proposed some amendments to the terms of reference to better support the method of appointing chairpersons and the current live streaming format of our meetings. At the December 3rd meeting, the committee requested both staff of each administration undertake a detailed review and bring back all amendments for discussion. Town staff's review has resulted in suggestions for numerous amendments. These amendments are intended to clarify the IMC's membership and voting structure, roles and responsibilities of support staff, and the IMC's authority to direct administration through recommendations to both councils. The details of these amendments are outlined in the agenda report. I would be happy to answer any questions, but can also review the proposed amendments if IMC would find that beneficial for their discussion.
Very good. Thank you, Planner Joyce. We appreciate your background on that. And I believe we may have an interest to bring this conversation back to discussion with the county's administration as well. But I would like to hear from, perhaps I can ask a question of Senior Planner McLean, if you have any comments on this at this time.
Thank you, Revo. I don't really, just because the time frame ended up getting stretched out. We had intended to be able to bring a version back to this committee meeting that both administrations were able to support, but unfortunately just the way things worked out with getting it in front of the Town of High Rivers Council prior to bringing it to the Intermunicipal Committee meeting, we haven't had a chance to Foothills County staff haven't had a chance to review the proposed amendments and make suggestions, but I believe that if we were given until the next IMC meeting, that we could definitely get a terms of reference together at the administration level that both administrations can support.
Very good. Thank you for that summary of explanation there. So I'll look to our councillors. Would there be support for providing a motion or any further discussion that you'd like to have in regards to getting that back for a little more discussion? So we'll bring that back to the next IMC. So we would be looking for sending that back to administration if everybody's agreeable to that. And I would look for your comments at this time. Deputy Reeve Stewart, and then we have also Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, having reviewed it, there is a a number of questions I would ask, and I'd like to have a chance to discuss it with our administration and have them the chance to thoroughly review it as well. So certainly support bringing it back on the next IMC once we have a more thorough review of it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And go ahead, Councillor Moore. I will look forward to your comments.
Great. Thank you, Revel. I just don't see at this point in our term of office that it is entirely relevant to even consider this at the moment, because the October election necessitates that any new members, and there are going to be new members at that point, will be reviewing the terms of reference and suggesting changes at that time. And with the fact that we have probably only one more meeting before the election, it just seems irrelevant at this point in time to proceed with this, other than maybe at Foothills would like to do some precursory review of it. And but it's a little bit late in this term to be making any further changes to the terms of reference that have gone on for the last 4 years.
Very good, thank you, Councillor Moore. And I think we're certainly wanting to be respectful of the time that's been involved in this at this point already from both of the administrations. So I'll look for any further comments from any of the councillors in regards to how you want to see this move forward. And if not, I'll entertain a motion of some sort. I'm not seeing any, but just wondering if somebody wanted to propose a motion to move this ahead. I see you unmuted there, Mayor Snodgrass. If you wanted to speak in regards to this, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dawn, but I also think it's okay to, and I'd make a motion to, I don't know, postpone this until the next IMC meeting to give the county a chance, and they can have a look at it. And at that time, then we can decide whether we want to accept it or leave the amendments as is until the end of the election, so that the new people can figure it out. So I think it's fair to have them involved in deciding on what we're going to put in place that they will have to obey by. So I'd put that motion forward to postpone.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table. Is there any further conversation on that? Any comments? Not seeing any, so I will vote. Ask you to vote by exception, just to move this along. I look forward to anyone speaking up to let me know if they are opposed to that motion. I'm not hearing any, so I will declare that that motion has passed, and that we will be sending that. We'll be going back to administration for further discussion, consideration, and then, of course, coming back to the IMC for further evaluation. Next up, we have item 4B, which is the impacts of the, it's stated as River Rock. We would assume it's probably Rimrock feedlot on Northwest neighborhood. So there's no indication of who would like to speak to this from the town of High River, but I would welcome whoever is prepared to speak to this matter at this time. Please go ahead. So I see Councillor Moore, are you ready to go to speak on this, or is, sorry if I missed that.
I just had another request, Suzanne. Would you be able to speak up a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sure, I'll try getting even closer to the phone. How does that a little better?
Great, yes.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. All right. And I do have Councillor Kinghorn who would like to speak on this matter. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Revel. I was actually looking to Councillor Nychuk. He's been involved in a number of residents' complaints from the north about this issue. Do you have anything, Michael, for us?
Thanks, Councillor Kinghorn. Since Chris put it on the asked to put it on the agenda, I wasn't sure if he was speaking to it in any context. But you know, the general premise of bringing it to IMC was the volume of, for lack of a better term, complaints that we receive from residents in the Northwest on an ongoing and continual basis. And not to bring this forward to ask for a solution immediately, but I guess from the experience with the county, are there ongoing measures to mitigate what's going on there? We've heard things that they've got processes in place. They're trying new techniques. We've been advised that they only deal with their manure a few times a year, which is inaccurate. It's several times a year, not a few times a year. And speaking from my personal perspective of being a resident of the Northwest, there are times where it's absolutely atrocious, that you do not want to be outside. And point blank, that's not a way any community should have to live. So I know it's not the county's business. They don't control it. They don't run it, but it is within your municipality. And we felt it needed to be brought forward as a concern from our residents and our council. Not to diminish the importance of industry and business and agriculture and what they do for, you know, the surrounding community, the industry and whatnot. But it is a concern for people that live in that area. It's a concern coming from realtors that are selling properties in that area. So it would be remiss if we didn't try to have some discussion, some consideration, and hopefully some improvement to that environmental condition going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Nychak. I just wonder if there's anybody from our administration who may be able to comment, or anybody from the councillors from the county who would like to take this on for checking into it or responding at this time. So I'll look for your indications there. We have, so Councillor Moore, I assume that your hand was from a previous indication. So I will go to...
No.
Oh, it's... So go right ahead then.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I just, over the years, I appealed at a lot of complaints because I also live in the Northwest. But with Western feedlots, and when they were closed down for a while, it was wonderful. And I know that in the past we have done many different, tried many different things. Even had environmental people come in and suggest tree line buffers and all sorts of measures. And Western was trying to work with it, but the problem was that they were spreading the manure on fields right at our borders, basically. And there was always it wasn't a normal thing. And some people thought that it was because of what they were feeding the cattle, the combination, and causing that very heavy ammonia smell to the manure. But when Rimrock feeders came in, they said that they were going to do things totally different, that they weren't going to spread the manure on the fields close to the town's borders, that they were putting concrete on their pens so that it would be easier to clean up and wouldn't be all mushy and all the other stuff. And they were feeding the cattle differently. So we were elated about that. And they didn't do the things that they said they were going to do. And they spread the manure on fields close to the town's western borders. And it kept creating a very obnoxious smell. And I know that people have said, well, you live in an agricultural community, you're in a country, get used to it, suck it up. But the people can't even have their windows open in the summer or sit out on their outdoors decks or anything because it's just too obnoxious a smell. And Rimrock hasn't met what they said they were going to do. And some citizens from the town have gone out and talked to them, and they said, well, we have a number of feedlots in a number of different locations, and we have had no problem with any of them. So why do you guys have a problem? The problem is that we have westerly winds here, right in line with the feedlot and the town. And it brings those odors directly to the people, especially on the western borders of the town. So I don't know who put this on the agenda or anything, but I just thought I'd give my 2 cents worth of background into that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Moore, for your perspective on that. And next up, we'll head over to Councillor Miller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So today you can, I guess, thank your blessings because the wind is blowing to the east, and I'm getting the smell where I live today. So, but I will tell you that Rimrock's been very accommodating with Foothills County. I know they're working on some very innovative methods to try and eliminate the manure smell, but they're not just quite there yet. It's something that they're working on, and it's in confidence right now, so I'm not able to share. But they are ahead of their curve as far as feedlots go, and they're working very hard to eliminate the smell. And unfortunately, it's something that has been there for quite a while, and I guess for now we're going to have to just get used or put up with it because they have really no other way. I mean, they are looking at other properties to spread, and they try their best to mitigate the wind, but sometimes it just can't be avoided. So, but just know they are working on some very innovative things with regard to manure management. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. We'll look forward to further information on that. Up next, we have Mayor Snodgrass. Please go ahead.
Delilah, I'm really interested to see how they're going to make this so that manure doesn't stink. But I don't. I've never heard that from Rimrock, and I've talked to Kendra a number of times since they showed up. But yeah, they've never mentioned to me that they would be like, it's impossible. You can't just adjust rations and make shit not stink, right? But what happened earlier in the spring that impacted High River like a lot more than normal years was the fact that two things. They were and they received ERCB warnings, and the head of the ERCB phoned me when they gave them the warnings that they spread too close to town the one time, and they're not allowed to do that. So that was very bad. They did that. And the other thing they did is they spread it on pasture land, which is also not allowed because it has to be on cultivated land so that they can work it in as fast as possible. So they did receive 2 warnings on that, so that, and the ERCB is all over them so that doesn't happen again. Now, hopefully I'm quite sure they're adjusting things and everything, but the concrete the concrete pens and stuff, yes, it makes it easier for them to operate that way, but it, you know, if we ever think that we're going there or they are going to do something that's going to eliminate this issue, I think that's a pipe dream. I don't think that'll ever happen. It's just biologically won't happen. If they do it, they're going to be billionaires overnight. So I agree. We gotta keep our eye on them, and they have to do things according to the rules and stuff. And there are boundaries as far as how close they can spread. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So that's my 2 bits.
Thanks so much for your input on that. Looks like we have Deputy Reeve Stewart up next. I guess we're definitely interested in hearing the update and maybe some ideas on where we might go from here. So looking forward to your comments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And just to highlight, so Mayor Snodgrass and the NRCB is the appropriate place, as you alluded to. They're the ones who govern feedlots, and they're the ones who can look after these things a lot different than the county. In terms of smell, though, I would disagree with you a little bit. You know, this feedlots and cattle and animals is my life, and there are things that can be fed that make the smell worse and make the smell better. One of the things that happens quite a bit in the last few years is we're bringing in a lot of corn, dried distillers grains from the US, primarily Texas, into these feedlots, and it does create a different smell for sure than what some of the other feeds do create. So it is a feed thing, and there are a number of things that people have been trying, and Rimrock is certainly one of them, are trying different things to reduce not only the smell, but also all sorts of other emissions and things going on, and feed conversion and things. So there are a number of things, and Rimrock actually they are associated with one of the world's premier feedlot technology outfits, where they're trying lots of different things. And you know, if somebody's going to learn how to reduce the smell, not eliminate, then that'll never happen, but reduce the smell, you know, Rimrock will be at the forefront of it. So just thought I'd add that in. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Rob.
That's certainly a hopeful outcome. I know it's a hopeful outcome I know everybody here would like to hear. And I would just think perhaps we could go away and perhaps find an update. It sounds like you're in direct contact with them as well. But I think our councillors are interested to get the latest and greatest information. But certainly you are well heard here today by the councillors from Foothills County, and just appreciate you guys sharing that information. So it looks like we do have a desire to add more context, or was that a hand from our previous item there, Mayor Snodgrass?
No, I'll put my hand down. Sorry, Suzanne. I'm running all over here.
Oh, yeah, no worries at all. And Councillor Miller, you did have yours too. Are you declining for any further comments, or did you want to wrap up the conversation here today?
Yeah, without going into too much detail, I will tell you that the process they're looking at will almost eliminate the smell altogether. So, and that's about all I can share right now. So we're working on it, and we're sympathetic to all the residents around, and I'll keep you posted as soon as I hear anything.
That is amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think you'll be the first speaker up at all IMC meetings coming forward. So thank you for that outcome there. And does anyone have any interest in proposing any motion, or are we just happy to have had that discussion there? Happy for the discussion, not hearing anybody, unless you want to propose something. Sorry, Councillor Kinghorn, you're okay? Everyone's giving me the thumbs up. Okay, I got the whole hand now this time. That was helpful. Thank you. So thumbs up on that. So we may as well head on to our next agenda item, which is 4C, and that is the joint planning area that our conversations are currently underway And we'll look forward to an update from Director Hemingway, and I believe sharing of the screen. I don't know if we are able to share the screen or we want to because things are in discussion, or can we, do we need to go into closed session? What are your thoughts on this?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Revol. We certainly don't need to go into closed session. This is very much out in the public realm. But I would like to share the screen if that's at all possible. I'm not sure who's managing the Zoom, but if I were to be able to be granted authority to do that, I would like to share my screen.
It appears that I am now the manager. This is Julie, and it appears you should be able to, but if you cannot, let me know.
It looks like I can.
I see something happening here. This is a good, there we are. You have to reduce the size of it to fit it in there, but
Okay. Let me
we are
reduce.
seeing a picture. Okay, that gets the whole deal.
All right. I'm just going to do an introduction to this item, and then I'm hoping to have a discussion. So the growth plan, the regional growth plan that's underway, as you are aware, has proposed areas called joint planning areas, or JPAs, where it states that benefit from extra intermunicipal cooperation would be undertaken. I believe you're all very aware of what a JPA is, so I won't go into a lot of detail on that. Foothills and Okotoks had originally suggested at the board table that no JPA was required in the south. However, the town of High River objected and spoke very compellingly that a JPA and the associated context planning would be a benefit to High River, Foothills, and Okotoks. On that note, we've heard you, and since that time, there have been a number of meetings, probably 3, maybe 4 meetings and discussions, some with the Reeves and the mayors, some where the CMRV administration was participating, to look at what JPAs in the South, how we could identify these JPAs. Initially, we proposed to split the JPA into a North and a South one. So I guess you could call them JPA 3 and JPA 4, or JPA 3 North and JPA 3 South. The intent was to make these just a little bit more manageable and cohesive. The divide line is 434 Avenue right here, and that's the southern extent of, or the intended southern extent of the reach of the Aldersyde utility system. The areas in the town of Okotoks that are proposed in the JPA were proposed by the town. And generally, I think we agree with them, but we might go back to them, I think, next week with just a slight change in that, as we have some stormwater that transfers between the two jurisdictions that might benefit from some further intermunicipal planning. So we've just been really looking more detailed as to what we'd like to see in there. We've been having those same conversations in the South JPA with the town of High River. The town of High River specifically also requested to be party to the North JPA, specific to the water utility servicing provided by the town, as long as it is provided by the town. And certainly we have no objection or concerns with that intent. That sounds like a very good idea. So in the South JPA, Foothills and the town have both started to look at what lands should be in. And Foothills feels that these areas within the town, shown as such, are areas where there are interface issues that should be looked at, as well as lands in Foothills where there are interface issues that impact the town. I appreciate that the town has asked that much of the land in the town of High River shown here be excluded from the JPA. Foothills feels that these lands are lands that should be into the JPA, as they do meet the criteria in the growth plan. I think we feel it's very important that both municipalities have lands that are part of the JPA. Ideally, I think we agreed to move forward with something such as this. And when we sit down and start to do the terms of reference for the context plan and actually even develop the context plan, we certainly have the opportunity to revise the boundaries once we start to really look down into the details associated with what we're going to include within the context plan information. So even if this goes into the growth plan the way it is, it's still not written in stone, and there's an opportunity to tweak it. So I think that's everything I wanted to bring up at this point in the conversation. And I think I'd just like to have hear from the committee about any concerns or thoughts or ideas and how you're feeling about how things are going with respect to the JPA conversation.
Thank you, Director Hemingway, for that presentation, and always seeing the evolving map on all of these CMRB items is helpful. And it looks to me like there's been a lot of work going on with our two administrations. So thank you for everybody's work on this. And I guess this is an evolving part of what is going to contribute to the overarching plan that we're all reviewing at this time and living under a bit of uncertainty in that whole regard. So I'll look forward to any comments that our councillors would like to provide at this time. And ultimately, I guess, still that's going to be heading back into administration's task list to keep working on that. So let's open it up here for any contributions from councillors or mayor that would like to provide their comments at this time.
Excuse me, Reeve. Can we go back to the stop the screen sharing?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Very good. Please go ahead.
High River Council has discussed this at length. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Is this reflective of what High River Council proposed? I can't remember the exact detail. Chris, do you have it in front of you, perhaps?
No, I don't have it in front of me, Jamie. Breelyn, I'm not sure if you have it available, readily available on your screen or not.
There was quite a lengthy discussion, and I'm looking at that south part, and I can't recall exactly what our council decided on that.
I don't have the map from that discussion, but if I have the timeline right, I believe that version did not include the Spitzy area structure plan and the East Country residential parcels at that time. I apologize, I might have my timeline off because there have been a number of iterations for this map.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and it looks like Councillor Moore, you are up next. Please go ahead.
My unmute button doesn't like to work quickly. Yes, I think the concern on our behalf was that a lot of the areas that are marked on the map within the town of High River have already been under major joint planning over the past few years. And that we already have a developed ASP on the Spitzy Crossing annexation part on the western borders of the town. And it didn't feel that there was any further need for any joint planning exercises. And on the east side, the country residential ones, we were kind of joint planning those areas for the last few years. And then we made an annexation and brought them up because many of the residents didn't want two municipalities to be involved. And now there is only one, and they feel that they can move forward under those areas. So it was a matter of that we felt that the areas within the town's municipal borders were already joint planned in the past, and that there was really no need or can't see any rationale for joint planning in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. It looks like we have Planner Joyce up at this point. Do you want to provide some more information on this? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Reval. I just wanted to provide some, I guess, background information for town administration's request to remove those lands from the South GPA. And when we did our initial review, we looked at particularly at the Spitzy Crossing Area Structure Plan, and we felt that we answered a lot of the county's or all of the county's concerns during the preparation of that area structure plan, and did address them, not just acknowledge them. We also didn't determine there was a regional significance to the Spitzy Crossing area or the country residential parcels on 112, which we felt was one of the primary objectives of the GPA criteria. So that's why our recommendation was to not include them, and we just wanted to provide that background for this discussion.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying that conversation and where you're at currently. Just looking for any further comments in regards to the joint planning areas. Should anyone like to put those forward? Go ahead, Director Hemingway.
Thank you. I don't necessarily disagree. I think the lands in Foothills also have area structure plans on them. We also have joint agreements in place. This is definitely another layer of red tape that causes everybody some concern, I think, and it's hard to really justify it. However, I believe that it's directed under the growth plan. There are 9 criteria associated with a new JPA. I don't know if that applies to the JPAs that are initially put out in the joint plan, but if we were to look at those 9 criteria, there are, I would suggest, at least 8 of them that would apply to the Spitzy Crossing area, the country residential area, and the areas across the north along 434. I don't believe that they're major issues. I think that they're issues that we can address in a context plan in short order. And then I think it would, if we do undertake the work, if we do end up going down this path and undertaking the work, then that it will find that these are, generally just clarifying benefiting components towards each municipality, and that it would help the county understand better how to address some of the impacts as Spitzy builds out. There are, of course, even the item we were just speaking about earlier on the agenda with respect to Rimrock feeders. There's obviously impacts between both municipalities that we need to keep in mind as we move forward. So I guess, we may choose to disagree at this point in time, but at some point this thing will move forward whether we agree or not. And I think perhaps, I really appreciate hearing from the town in this forum, and maybe there's further discussion that needs to be had at the administration level to understand how we're feeling and why we feel these lands meet the criteria, the 9 criteria that are outlined in the joint planning section of the growth management plan. Maybe that's a motion arising out of this discussion, and then we'll just continue the discussion at the administrative level.
Thank you, Director Hemingway. So as was mentioned, it was great to hear comments in regards to the different perspectives, and at this time I'll still invite more of those perspectives. Otherwise, the other thing we can do to move along on the agenda is to propose a motion that would continue to invite our administrations to continue the work program of identifying the joint planning area. So if somebody would like to propose that would continue and recognize the work that was presented to us here today. Councillor Kinghorn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, I'll make a motion to that effect. I appreciate all the work that both administrations have gone through over this whole thing. And this is new, the growth plan, and all the work that's being done at the CMRV. So I would move that we what was your verbiage you used there to take it back to administration and consider or more negotiations? How's that?
Yeah, keep the discussion moving forward.
Yeah.
Very good. So we do have a motion on the table. Is there anyone who wants to speak any further to that? Not seeing any at this time. We'll do this by exception. And does anyone have a statement of opposition to this motion going forward? Just let me know by the hand or verbally. Not seeing any, so I'll declare that motion has carried. Thank you, everybody, for that conversation. A lot of interesting new territory on this topic, and one of the next items we are going to kind of continue on that vein. So heading over to item 4D on the agenda today, we would like to have that conversation. So Foothills County has put this agenda item on here, the CMRB Growth and Servicing Plan. So to begin, I'll share some opening comments in regards to the great impact to the county that's from our perspective, and then I would invite, we do have Director Hemingway as additional listed on this item for providing some background, and then I would welcome the comments of our councillors and also various perspectives from the town of High River, as well from councillors and mayor, however this is at your disposal for conversation on this. So to begin, I'd like to share an observation from the planning consultants noted on many occasions to the CMRB committees and the board that this is not an area in crisis, that 3 growth scenarios they explored and then the final morphed version show virtually no or show no impact to Foothills County, as we are likely to see only 1%, 1.6% of the growth in the region. So I'll say that again, 1.6% of the growth in the region. In this draft plan, a stigma is attached to the rural development as inherently bad, although acreages and farms have provided a desired lifestyle choice to many citizens in the region. And we note in our assessment that agricultural land protection is not at the heart of the plan because the biggest loss of agricultural land is in fact due to annexation. And we recognize that it's not in the scope of the regulation, but it's just a huge factor that one needs to daylight. The current direction of this plan does not give us much hope since we are clearly defining winners and losers in the region, where advantages are given to our urban neighbors while we as rurals will have to beg at the board table for consideration under the supermajority vote, which you're all familiar with. And then we would also suggest we're being covered with red tape. There are biases and fundamental inequities in the current draft plan that we will hopefully be able to overcome before we can possibly create something that's beneficial for all of us in the region. Our goal would be a true partnership in this plan, but at this point, because that is not what we're seeing, this is creating uncertainty and lost opportunity, which sends out the signal that business is closed in the rural areas around Calgary. The draft growth plan limits development to forms that don't work for the county, that duplicate what we already have in place with the cost-sharing agreements, the IDPs, and the other agreements, and effectively create problems where there aren't any in order to justify the overburdening regional plan. So what we'd like to see is a growth plan amended to allow for Foothills County to create new growth areas for both residential and employment areas, the same as the urban municipalities are allowed to in this draft plan, where all of these, including what we're suggesting, would all be subject to the regional evaluation framework. Also, Foothills County has a long-standing growth management strategy and a defined growth area that was put in place in consultation with our residents, and we have a planned servicing strategy. We want to be able to be recognized for this and also to use this. So we still envision something that is fair, transparent, and keeps the authority within elected governments. Our plan should not be the overlord of our municipalities, but rather create a custom fit for this area and guide us as equal partners on how the region should grow and provide opportunity and economic support for the region, a truly win-win scenario. And just a highlight of something that was positive this morning was the board did hold a visioning session, so we missed you on that, Mayor Snodgrass, and hope you will be joining us on the part 2, and that there is some good conversations going on about commonly held vision. So I'll leave it at that, and I would next up welcome to invite Director Hemingway, if you would like to provide additional background at this time to explain where we're at and some of our concerns. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Revo. Since 2019, Foothills has been working in good faith on creating a regional growth plan that we can live with. Foothills is alarmed that the draft growth plan is taking our region towards significant municipal conflict and destroying the positive and productive relationships that currently exist. The province granted an extension to March 1st, 2021 to complete the work stipulated in the regulation. Nearing that date, the board came to understand that the servicing plan was unacceptable, the growth plan was not complete, and the regional evaluation framework was missing altogether. We have now spent over $1 million and uncounted in-kind contributions, and we've received half a growth plan, half a servicing plan, and no REF. I suggest that this is evidence that this project has gone off the rails badly. We wanted to share with you some of our concerns with you as our municipal neighbor, if for no other reason to make you aware of how we feel. We certainly appreciate that you may have a completely different view. Because the policies in the growth plan, because of the policies and because it's not complete and there's no REF and no servicing plan, it's basically been not much more than an expensive waste of paper. If there had been a vote on February 28th, as scheduled, we believe the board would have refused it. Instead of voting, the board has requested and received a second time extension to the deadline to complete the regional growth and servicing plan, as well as the REF, to June 1st, 2021. Foothills has concerns regarding the growth plan with respect to how it's shutting the door on rural opportunity, limiting economic development, creating red tape and economic uncertainty, which we believe is going to be a very significant concern to the Minister of Municipal Affairs when he does see it. And we also believe that the process and the biased view of the consultant has towards creating urban development serviced by transit is going to be a challenge for our region going forward. The density of development required in all our jurisdictions is very high. I appreciate the City of Calgary is fine with these densities, but I wonder how the developers in High River will feel about achieving between an 8 and 15 units per acre. To me, it seems like a large increase in density and not what people are looking for when they move out to High River. You're unique here. You're not Okotoks and you're not Cochrane. I think it's a shame that the diversity of place and the choice of lifestyle and opportunity for development of a business that has been both the heart of county development and the town of High River development will no longer be permitted under the new growth plan. We are fighting hard to get this consultant to change some things in the plan so that we can live with it. As we expect, we will all have to live with it. Unless we can get some changes in the plan, I anticipate that Foothills County will be voting against approving it at the end of April. Thank you very much for letting me speak on that topic.
Thank you, Director Hemingway. And I'll just look to Foothills County councillors to start with, and then I would very much welcome from the town of High River if you would like to provide any comments at that time. Just to ask from the county councillors, do you have anything further to add at this time? Look forward to next up. We have Councillor Miller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Revol, and I'll apologize ahead of time. I've got a little helper here today, and she might get a little noisy on me, but I'll do my best. So I want to take this one step further and actually bring up some other points that haven't been brought up that perhaps our urban neighbors haven't thought of, and I think they're going to affect this plan. I guess, as you know, the overarching plan is the Alberta Land Stewardship, and it is the plan that talks about the importance of public engagement. So this consultant has done several rounds of public engagement, and we have approximately 1.5 million people in our region. The response was 192 surveys were actually answered, and that's what they're basing this plan on and what our residents want. Their engagement with the Indigenous people only happened at the pressure of Foothills County, saying that the lands to the west currently owned by our Indigenous folks have not even been included, and they weren't even engaged in this plan. So the consultants did go out and engage them. We haven't got any answers back from our Indigenous members because they're probably not interested. They're federally operated, and why would they want to sign up for a fourth layer of government when they don't have to right now? So I guess for me, I would ask myself why they're not participating, and that tells me why they're not participating. They don't need to. They're not mandated to be part of the plan, so why would they? The other things I look at that haven't been talked about is the tax implications. The planners continually talk about their successes in the Portland metro region. So when I did some research on that region, they actually have been hit with 29 tax levies since this plan has been introduced into their region. The latest one is they tried to add on to a payroll tax for any companies that employed more than 25 people. So that was turned down. It went to a vote, a plebiscite. They operate a little differently down there than we do, and that was turned down. The one previous to that is they're trying to pay for a overpriced transit system that none of them can afford, and it is virtually running this whole region into debt. So they're taxing all their residents, and that's something that this plan doesn't ever speak to. Doesn't speak to the tax implications. So I shared a paper that was done by the Fraser Institute with Mayor Snodgrass before Christmas, and it talked about the Greater Toronto area and the impacts of regionalization on the urban municipalities as well as the rural. And taxes there have gone up over 100% for every single municipality. You know, I think for me as a counselor, and I know as for you as a council, we're all cognizant of tax increase. Certainly not a legacy I want to leave as a counselor of the time of implementing the Calgary Regional Plan, of hitting my residents up with huge tax increases because we decided to join a metropolitan plan that Calgary has total control of the region. And they have a lot of lofty plans on how to pay for things because, as you know, there was an article even today in the, I think it was in the Herald, about Calgary's downtown dying. We all know it's dying, but it's gotten even worse. So they're looking for tax money, and guess who's going to have to pony up and help them with that? I know my comments are a little not as politically correct as my colleagues, and but most of you who know me know I do my research and I'm a straight shooter, and I sincerely believe that this plan won't be good for our region, and it'll cost our residents huge, and it's not a legacy I want to leave my residents with a huge tax increase to help Calgary pay for perhaps transit that no one else can utilize. You saw a small example of regionalization in the JPA areas where they will have a say and they want to say in how you grow, how we grow. So it's not all about Foothills County and having control over the rules, because as I've heard by some of the urban partners is we've been bad at planning. We haven't been bad at planning. We have a lot of bylaws, regulations, overarching plans in place, and we have a lot of shared services, as Revol alluded to, that we already have partnerships in, strong partnerships that we've had for years without a regional plan. So I'll leave you with this. Ask yourself and your council and your residents if you're going to be better off with this plan if you adopt it and be a part of it. So that's what I'll leave you with. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for that, Councillor Miller. Appreciate your comments there. And looks like we have a request to speak from Mayor Snodgrass. Look forward to your comments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. Very good comments from Councillor Miller. There is no question that HDR Calthorpe is biased. There's just, you can't get around it. They do not speak favorably about rural development. They are very much pro-urban and transport, which even their transport aspirations, when I see the plan, I think they're a long ways out from what they've got envisioned, but maybe I'm wrong. The density stuff, I don't know how much that really affects High River and Spitzy, because I think we're at 8 to 10 or something now. Dawn, you could probably nod your head more than Jamie. Yeah, so we're kind of there on that end. And as far as the vision session this morning, I kind of wanted to be there, but my son was supposed to have dental surgery this morning, so I wasn't able to be there. But it also wasn't a big deal to me, and I'll tell you why. Because of the differences between the urbans and the rurals, just like the visioning sessions we went through before, back, what was that, a couple of years ago, you know, in my mind, they were a complete failure. There was a lot of time and a lot of effort put into those meetings, and it was just an absolute flop. And I was pretty outspoken at one of the meetings as to, you know, this is just going to get watered down because there's too many people, there's too many egos in the room. And when you have that, when you're trying to do a vision statement, I believe that it needs to be bold. It needs to have some meat to it. It can't just be a whole bunch of muni words strung together to live, work, and play together, right? At the end of the day. So, and that's where I do not see anything else coming out of these next vision statements. And it's honestly, as a board member, it's damn embarrassing that we're doing these vision statements now. At the end of the plan, we're going to put a vision statement in. Like, we couldn't get it done before. I don't know how we're going to get it done afterwards. But that's my opinion. And I do want to be at the next one. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be there, because I want to see it and I want to hear what others are saying. But, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I know the individuals in the room, and man, like, it's tough to do for the town of High River when we're all in the same town and dealing with the same thing. You blow this thing up into a regional vision statement that's going to have some meat to it. Yeah, not really there. The public engagement with the CMRV was, again, embarrassing. But 192 responses, whatever the number was you gave, Delilah. You know, I've asked around town, you know, what do you think about CMRV? Nobody has a clue. Nobody has a clue. If you say, you know, the Calgary Regional Planner and CRP, you know, some of them will remember that one, but CMRV, like, no, nobody really knows. But what I will say about the plan is that the balance is not there. And I would like to hear more from the county on those concerns that you were talking about, Heather. I do want to learn more about those. But Delilah, you and I had a really good conversation before you sent me that Greater Toronto Area thing, and it made me think about this stuff a lot. And I didn't read all of that report because it's massive, not enough pictures for Craig, but you know, it does bring up some concerns as to where we're going. But So I made a few phone calls after that to not only other CMRB members, but administration and other government people that I know, just asking about, like, where are we going with this? What is this going to do? Is this something that we should be fearful of? And, you know, it's very clear the government of Alberta, regardless of what party's in charge, is, you know, it started with the PCs and then we were mandated, and the NDPs took it on and continued that on, or did the NDP mandated it, right? UCP did not change it, so it's not a political party thing. It's just the government of Alberta, whoever it is, wants this done. And you know, one of the comments that I received is that if we don't pass this plan, that massive annexations are going to start taking place from the larger municipalities, and that starts to concern me. As to, well, now it's just an annexation free for all. And if we don't pass it, what will the government of Alberta do? Will they shove something down our throats and mandate it and drop it in our lap? So I'm trying to figure out and compare the alternatives, you know, as to where the bigger danger is. And I honestly, Delilah, I would much rather see us have a plan that has more balance. And it's, you know, I need to speak up on this as well for you, because this can't just be an urban thing and a Calgary thing to shove down everybody's throats, right? Because, you know, Peter Brown's a big, Mayor Brown in Airdrie, he's a big proponent of this group, and he always speaks very passionately as to how important this work is. And he's kept me on board over the years, there's no question. But and he said something at one meeting, it was just a little blip, but it because you guys know how I feel. I've kind of been critical of rural development and taking over farmland and building these subdivisions and everything else. But Peter said something at the one meeting, and he just said, you know, who am I to tell somebody else how they want to live, right? And who am I to tell, you know, that farmer what they are to do with that land? If the kids don't want it, and yeah, the ag guys, they're the best stewards of the land. You know, I'm not a big developer fan. I think they have their pluses and their minuses, but I think we've got to be real careful in just taking the consultants' work and their experience and everything just verbatim and shoving it down our region's throat. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but because of at the end of the day, when I see the division that is very clear between the urbans and the rurals, the urbans are going to vote for it and the rurals are going to vote against it. You know, even to the point where now where the rurals are, you know, and Suzanne, you and I have spoke a little bit about this, but what I've noticed is now the rurals are voting against even accepting stuff for information, which tells me how committed to being against this that you are, which is understandable because the balance is off. And regardless of what the consultant says, if the balance is off that far, I think we've got a plan. So when they asked my opinion about the extension, I said, well, you know, whatever. You know, but hopefully we can get a few more months, and is it going to change anything? But you know, Heather, Delilah, Suzanne, I think we all need to have I need to learn more about where those, you know, I know the Hamlet numbers and these things are concerning, but I'm sure there's quite a bit more. So as we go into the vote in the next couple of months, I need to learn more so that I can maybe speak up, because the balance isn't there and I'm not happy with that. So my concern is if we don't pass this, man, then what, right? The government, here you go, guys, eat this one, right?
I don't think anything will happen if I can Revol. I don't think anything will happen if we don't pass it. It's entirely up to us as a region. The only reason that amalgamation took place in the Greater Toronto Area is they regionalized first. Then the government of the day came in and amalgamated them all into one region. So think of yourselves as having 7 councillors with your mayor going to one at a big table sitting around with Calgary, because that's what the GTA in Toronto is. I guess I'll point to Calgary, for instance. I'll pick on them for planning. When I did some research on them, I don't know if you guys are aware, but they have 5,200 parks in Calgary, 5,200. And that takes up roughly, I think, 22 sections of land, sections, not quarter sections. So they are by far the biggest users of our good ag land. And for them to come and point a finger, and I've heard it many times at the board table about the McMansions that are out in the rural, it is they need to look within, because when I looked on the MLS listing, I found a 10-acre McMansion in the city of Calgary in the Northwest that has a 14,000 square foot footprint. They have a swimming pool and 8 bathrooms and a 7-car garage. So, they also have 24 golf courses in the city of Calgary. Their park system is double what the national park average for North America says it should be. They should only have roughly 2,500 parks for the size of city that they are. So before you point a finger at the rules and tell us that we're bad planners and we don't know what we're doing, look within your own urbans and ask yourself if you want the region to be telling you how to plan High River and how to plan Okotoks and how to plan, you want 9 other members weighing in, because that's what you're asking the rules to swallow here. You're asking us to have everybody weigh in and tell us how to plan our land. So Portland did a 5-mile radius around their whole city and landlocked that as farmland, and that seemed to make their plan happy, and they have control of that. Well, people that want to be living in country residential just jumped that 5-mile radius and are building outside of it. Instead of having less traffic in the city with their big urban transit orientated development, they have more cars going to their downtown because people are getting out of the city. And that's what's happening with Calgary. They're not liking it. And now their latest newspaper cry was they need to get control of all of their urban neighbors and stop any kind of industrial development on their borders and just have industrial development within the city of Calgary borders. So that's what they're going for. And I guess for me too, ask yourself, is this a real partnership when you've got one municipality that has the veto vote and can outvote you and will outvote you anytime it suits them? So I'll leave you with that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Miller, and really appreciate your comments in regards to wanting to get a better understanding, because as we're having a heart attack over here, really appreciate that you guys would understand what that's about, because your vote's super important. And if you dive into little detail, some of the latest things that they're declaring as a regional significant development is 8 lots that you have to go do an area structure plan for it. And if we want to do employment, we have a maximum of 20 acres and we have 900,000 in the county. And they're saying that our maximum to develop is 20 acres. So you can see the disparity. And I guess I'll just harken back to the fact that we did this work in 2013 to do a growth management strategy. So we have that, we have an area defined, and we really want to explore that further, and we're working on servicing. So we want to do it better. We're trying to do it well. We engaged our residents in it. So we have all this really great work, but this plan doesn't allow for us to use any of that. So we're very interested in sharing information to help you understand the context of us being continuing to be hopefully a good neighbor. We're going to have to sort through the JPA thing there and figure out how we can manage to get that included, because we don't know what the future holds on where the plan is going or how the votes will happen after that. So we're a bit fear oriented in all directions. You're a bit fearful about if we don't have this. We're fearful if we do have it. So we might cancel each other out on that, and equal things might turn out okay. But if we're creating opportunity for hearing each other from this dialogue, I think that's the whole point of why Foothills County wanted to put this on the agenda today, is really make you aware of how important this is to us, and really appreciate your word on that you chose. Balance is an excellent word, and if you were able to find the words and the opportunity to express that in the public forum when we are dealing with this, I know we would be very grateful for that. And I do see that Director Hemingway has also indicated a desire to add some more information. So I look forward to you providing some more information. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just super quick. 2 points in reaction to Mayor Snodgrass's discussion. Recently, the province of Alberta created Bill 48, which has received royal assent, whereby it removed the requirement for a regional growth plan in the Calgary metropolitan area. So there is an opportunity to not have one. They kept it in the Edmonton area, and they removed it out of the Calgary area. So that opens up the opportunity for the province to not require a plan. So that'll be determined. They're waiting to see what happens with this plan before they decide what to do. The second point is we have a regional growth. We have a regional plan. It's called the Interim regional plan that all 10 members unanimously approved. And we've been operating under that framework for some time. It does require lots of collaboration and consultation. It does have limits whereby area structure plans are required. It's not perfect, but it's 100% better than what this Peter Calthorpe is proposing. So 2 things: we have one already, and the province has taken away the requirement to have one. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
So Heather, has the province voted on that, like the Bill 48? And
Bill 48's in. That's that red tape reduction bill. The province has indicated they're going to look at the regulations and decide whether or not a growth plan is required under regulation. But they're not going to do that until the Calgary Metropolitan Regional Board has tabled a growth plan or not.
Great. Thanks for bringing those 2 items forward. And we do have Councillor Moore up next. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment that I really appreciate the comments from Heather, Delilah, and Craig. They were very good comments and good for our further illumination. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I appreciate your comments. I just wonder if anyone else would like to chime in on this discussion, all things CMRB. So I don't know that we need to do anything to move forward on it, except we really appreciate the discussion. Perhaps we might just do a motion to get that onto the minutes, just to suggest that we are just accepting it for information. I believe we're okay to do so. If somebody wants to provide that, Councillor Miller, would you provide that motion?
Yeah, I really think I'd like to follow Mayor Snodgrass's comments with regard to continuing the conversation, and I think it would be prudent for us to meet even just several members from both councils, just to have a more frank discussion about the impacts of this plan, just to make sure that we're all aware. My other big ask is I hear your comments. I share the same comments about the person on the street not knowing what CMRB is. So for me, the lack of consultation to our residents is huge. So I personally plan on going out on a personal campaign and trying to educate our residents on the pros and cons of this plan and get feedback from them. I am fearful of the huge tax increases, and I know in every regional plan they come with it. So that is something that I know my residents won't support and they don't want. So I think we need to carry on the conversation. It should be a standing agenda item, and I'd certainly give you that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Miller, and I would concur that many of the councillors from Foothills County are in agreement and are working towards this sharing of information and creating understanding about the huge impact. So I appreciate the motion and, again, the conversation today. So up next we have Mayor Snodgrass. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Suzanne. Just going back to Delilah about us getting together. So I just sent Suzanne a quick email just asking her to send me kind of the point form as to what the major concerns are so that I can dig into it and start to really wrap my head around what the direct concerns are. But absolutely, let's find a meeting time to have another Zoom meeting, not probably as IMC, but just a BS session to get this figured out. So well done.
Thank you. Excellent. Go forward on this one, and we couldn't be more pleased to hear your interest to have further discussion. So thank you for that. And we'll just call a vote by exception on this, unless there's any other comments. I don't see any other ones. Just by exception, does anyone have a problem with going ahead with this motion? Not seeing any, so we'll declare that passed. Thank you, everyone. So next up, we have an update from Senior Planner McLean, who hopefully will be able to share a screen if you have visuals for us. And since I guess you are the administrator, this would be a good thing. We have an update on the Highway 2A East Side Area Structure Plan. Please go ahead.
Yes, and I will share my screen because I do have a presentation to show you. And I'm hoping that you will be seeing the actual presentation slide. Does that look correct?
That looks great. It's even filling the whole area, which is always helpful.
Ooh, all right. Okay, so the Highway 2 East Side Area Structure Plan, of course, you're all familiar with, is the area on the east side of Highway 2 that was identified in our intermunicipal development plan as an opportunity for future highway commercial development. So to provide some background here, I have a timeline that just kind of outlines how we've got where we are. So in 2012, the plan area was identified in our IDP, as I had mentioned, as future highway commercial development. In March 2020, after an exploration regarding a joint economic development study for the area as suggested in the IDP, High River Council approved a motion to waive the requirement for a joint economic development study on the condition that Foothills County approve an area structure plan. In March of 2020, Foothills County Council directed staff to prepare a terms of reference for an area structure plan to provide a framework for development of a highway commercial area in this location. In April 2020, Foothills County Council approved that terms of reference for the area structure plan. And in August 2020, initial engagement was undertaken with identified stakeholders, including landowners, the town of High River, and Alberta Transportation. In September of last year, ISL Engineering were engaged to undertake a technical study for the plan, including stormwater and transportation study. And from September to now, we have been working on site analysis, technical study, and a preliminary concept for development. So we've created a vision for this area, and I will read it to you. It's a quality commercial development with a high standard of design. The Highway 2 East Side Area Structure Plan is home to businesses and amenities to support the traveling public, the agriculture industry, and recreational activities. The development benefits from its location along Highway 2 with excellent access provided by the Highway 23 and 498th Avenue interchanges located at either end of the plan area. We've also identified some objectives for the plan. And those are to provide a framework for future development, including a phasing strategy for the area, to understand the cost related to transportation and stormwater infrastructure needed to support future development, to foster economic development in Foothills County by providing planned land, by providing planned land for commercial development, to protect the operational safety and functionality of Highway 2, to ensure appropriate interface with agricultural lands, to minimize the impacts of development on the environment, to accommodate the opportunity to connect to future pipe servicing should it become available, to plan for multimodal transportation, including providing for future transit should it become available, and to ensure a high standard of development in the area. In the fall of 2020, a site analysis was undertaken. It involved both site visits and desktop analysis by Foothills County staff and the consultants. It examined site topography, existing land use, existing drainage, the locations of culverts, wells, and the existing road network, and which wetlands might be potentially crown claimable. The results of the site analysis were used in the development of 2 preliminary concepts. So these 2 preliminary concepts were developed and they will be reviewed by stakeholders for feedback. It is likely that the final concept will be a blend of the 2. The main features in option 1 are a displacement of the existing service road and the closing of the existing access. The displacement of the service road allows for double loading of the roads in phase 1, but it will also require reorientation of the existing developed sites. Alberta Transportation has indicated they will not support an access to the commercial area as well as an access at 128th Street. One solution is shown here where the main access to the commercial area will be at 128th Street. In this option, 128th is not shown as a through road. This would preserve the nature of this road as a rural road and reduce development pressure on the east side of this road. The configuration results in a more complicated access for rural traffic, but allows for sufficient distance from any future configuration of the interchange. The main features of option 2 are retaining the current service road and creating a new southern access to the commercial area between its current location and 128th Street. Retaining the service road where it is allows for the orientation of already developed sites to remain unchanged, but it does result in more roads overall, and roads will not be double loaded until phase 2 of the development process. The access as shown here would necessitate that the intersection of 128th Street and Highway 23 be closed. Rural traffic would access through the commercial development at the south end. The benefit of this configuration is it reduces the distance that traffic needs to travel from Highway 2 to access the commercial area. Due to the configuration of the roads, phase 1 is slightly larger in option 2 than it is in option 1. So the next steps that we anticipate in this project over the next several months are outlined here. We will be providing an update to Foothills County Council. You're very lucky you got the preview here because they will be getting a similar presentation next week. My apologies to those of you who will get it twice. Then we will update the project page on the county's website. We will re-engage with stakeholders to discuss the concepts, and that would include engaging with the Town of High River administration. We will undertake a wider stakeholder and public engagement to inform them about the plan. We will choose and refine a concept option. We will undertake technical analysis on that refined concept, begin policy development, and then begin drafting the plan. So that concludes my presentation, and I would entertain any questions that anyone might have at this time. And I will see if I can unshare my screen.
Thank you. Unless somebody would like to point out something on there, you guys can just chime in if you want to see a picture or have her point to something. But Thank you for that presentation, Senior Planner McLean, and I would look forward to anybody who has any questions on this. And I believe, Mayor Snodgrass, your hand was up from a previous question, right? Okay, thank you. So over to Deputy Reeve-Seward, and if you wanted to point out anything, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. And just wondering, Mrs. McLean, when you were talking to Alberta Transportation, was there any conversation about the Highway 23 interchange with number 2?
Highway 23. Yes, mostly just that it's a ways off. So the design, anything that we're doing right now, they have a design of what they believe it's going to look like. So we're able to work around that. But as far as the timing of that work happening, they haven't given us any inclination.
Thank you. Is there any further questions at this time? It was great to hear an update, and there's obviously still a long list of items that need to go forward, and we'll become more and more acquainted with this. So looking forward to any further questions at this time on this presentation. I'm not seeing any, so maybe I can just check back in with you, Senior Planner McLean. Was there a follow-up recommended motion that you might have on this in terms of the appropriately with the IMC here?
I think a motion to accept for information would be very much appreciated.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Somebody like to provide that motion? Deputy Reeve-Seward, you were keen on that one, so we'll just ask you for that. You do provide it. Thank you. So moved. And any further conversation on that? Not seeing any. So by exception, does anybody vote against that? Don't see any, so that motion carries. And we're on to item number 5 on the agenda here, and this is a letter that was received, and the title of the item on the agenda is Lower Highwood Flood Mitigation Program Letter from Minister. So this was a co-received letter from some various communications that had gone on in regards to the Lower Highwood Flood Mitigation Program, and this letter came from the Office of the Minister and is signed by Jason Nixon, the Minister, the AEP Minister. This request was sent by the county in regards to a question on using the mitigation funds. And you guys, I know we've had this conversation at the IMC previously, but they were just answering our inquiries. The first thing they're saying is that the department is unable to consider additional funding at this time. So not a huge surprise, but definitely disappointing from our perspective, because this is a project that they had funded and started, initiated, and are making it go through. And the effects of the project are something that we believe lies in their responsibility and jurisdiction. So that was disappointing news. However, there was one part that we were happy with in the second paragraph, or the third technically, was the mitigation funding surpluses from previous grants could be reallocated. So there is the ability to use those for the identified projects from either monies that were given to the town of High River or monies that were given to the Foothills County. So they then provided contact information for us, and then allow us to continue to work together on how those funds might be used. And at this time, I do want to mention that we still have outstanding properties. I believe we have 9, and and if you can just put this in context, these guys have been waiting since 2013 to have their lives put in order, and they're still waiting. But so these 9 properties and approximately $10+ million in funds necessary to make that all happen. So, you know, I don't have to explain to you, I believe you guys have been supportive up to this point, but we'll just check in on a little bit of an update from the county, and then a little bit of an update from High River if you have anything further to add to this. Maybe I can check in with Senior Planner McLean. Was there anything additional you wanted to add to this topic?
Thank you, Reeve. No, I don't have anything to add, and certainly we've had this discussion many times, and we are very appreciative of the support that the town has given us in this endeavor, and boy, it's been a long haul. So we're very hopeful that it will move forward at some point.
Thank you. And it looks like we have Deputy Seward. Did you have anything to add to this? And then we'll head over to Town of High River if you have anything to add.
Yeah, just to add that we do continue to get phone calls from these residents who feel that they've been, well, I don't need to go down that road. I think you guys you all know and you understand. So I'm just hoping maybe you would have an update for us, High River would have an update for us in terms of whether there's, where we're looking in terms of the money, leftover FREC money, flood money that we had talked about in the past, that you may have some available in time, and wondering how that's progressing.
Thank you. So is there anyone from Town of High River that would like to provide? Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thanks. Yeah, concerning the money, Rob, we're still waiting on the results of the AEP appeals that were done on the lower little boat, not the lower, but just outside of town. So we don't have a read on what's going to come of that, and whether we'll be asked to use any of those funds to provide more compensation to any of those people. So we're hanging on to that stuff pretty tight, and until we know where the departments or where that appeal lands, we can't really say anything. So once we know that, we'll be better off as to knowing what. But as far as I know, a lot of that lands on Mr. Nixon's desk. So he'll be aware of everything that's going on now, if he isn't already.
Great, thank you for that update. Just wondering, is there anyone else who would like to speak to this topic? Have any further comments? Otherwise, we could do a whole motion to receive for information at this time. Not seeing anyone. So is there anyone who has an interest to acknowledge this letter and get their name on the minutes? All right. Deputy Seward, go ahead. Proposing that motion?
Yeah, so moved, acknowledge the letter. Thanks.
Thank you kindly. Any further conversation? Not seeing any. By exception, does anyone vote against this? Not seeing any, we'll say that that motion has carried, and we're on to item number 6, which is general municipal updates. Is there anyone who would like to provide an update on any topics that we're perhaps interested in from the point of view from us as neighbors, or for any overlapping jurisdictions on provincial topics? I know we're all pretty active on the coal topic, and we're looking forward to being signed up for the public engagement. And there's a meeting tomorrow afternoon on the mayors in Reeves of Southwest Alberta, where we have some guest speakers attending. So we've got the Minister of Energy attending that one, and some impact presentation regarding the Old Man watershed. So I know that that's happening tomorrow on that. But so there's that topic, but there's numerous other ones. So we have many interesting topics, including the evolving EMS dispatch that's going on, not necessarily affecting us, but we were able to make a presentation to interested parties on how that's all rolling out with the 3 cities and the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo having made a statement in public of how they're unhappy with things in terms of the side effects of handing over their EMS dispatch. So we heard from Mayor Nenshi today in the meeting, with the board meeting. There was a bit of an extension of a board meeting today, that Calgary's not happy either. So I guess it's not a dead issue yet, and that one might continue to have some life to create some understanding, and all of us who are attached to that and wanting the best level of service for our residents on that regard. So I'll leave those couple out there, but I know you all probably have some favorite topics you want to bring up, so I look forward to those as well. So go ahead, Mayor Snodgrass.
Yeah, just following up on the coal thing. So thanks very much for you guys supporting that and sending a letter up there. It's a very big deal, and yeah, I'll be at that the mayors and Reeves meeting tomorrow, just to make sure that the consistency that I'm hearing from the minister is the same as what's being delivered tomorrow. So, and then a group of us have a meeting with one of Minister Savage's staff members, and we've got some pretty big questions on how this consultation, not the consultation so much, but right now, but the formation of this committee that's going to be kind of guiding this public consultation, we've got some pretty big concerns with, saying that's going to be all in place by March 29th is a pretty tight timeline for even the town of High River to put something together, a committee together that fast, no matter the provincial government on a topic this big, that they need such a broad spectrum of individuals to be involved with it. So looking forward to hearing more from Sonia tomorrow and keeping this fight moving forward. So that's all I got. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thank you. Is there any other topics anyone would like to bring up? I'm not seeing it at this time, and we're looking at our next meeting to be determined, so we won't be able to bring anything into this meeting in that regard. I believe that'll be coming our way through the email inbox. And then since we don't have any further items, I'll just look for a motion to adjourn unless anyone has any wrap-up final comments. Go ahead. We are so moved. Motion to adjourn by Mayor Snodgrass. By exception, not hearing anyone against, I hope you guys all have a great rest of your afternoon and a lovely weekend as that will follow. Thank you for the catch up today, everybody.
Well done. Thanks, Suzanne.
Take care.